in the metropolis and climate extremes. So today I'm going to just look at the issues of multiplicities. In the post that we put in, we looked at Deleuze's concept of multiplicity, and then the idea was that whether multiplicities are not parts of a greater whole that have been fragmented, and therefore the issue of our metropolis is really a basic issue. What are these? What are these identities? How, in fact, they are understood? What are the component parts of it? And in fact, I've added for the presentation the heritopolis, heritage and the metropolis. When the city disintegrates into an archipelago of fragments, a new role is imposed on the landscape as a carrier of topographical characterizations. And I think that this is exactly the sort of issues that we're actually going to be doing. Anyway, you haven't come to listen to me, and I'm now straight away going to introduce Antonella, who needs no introduction, and will then open up the discussion. Over to you, Antonella.
Thank you very much, Michael, and welcome to everybody. How does the past serve as a driving force in the transition towards a new metropolitan dimension? The Retopolis Forum opens within a theoretical and operational territory in which heritage is no longer a repository, but a tension, a dynamic field capable of orienting the city toward new forms of metropolitanization. As anticipated by recent research, the contemporary metropole is not an object, but a process, a multiplicity of scales, memories, discontinuities, and imaginaries. It is not coincidence that the theme of multiplicity, which structured last year's forum, draw on a critical genealogy ranging from Simmel to Foucault, from Cacciari to Giddens, restoring to the metropolis its nature as an intensified, nervous place that cannot be reduced to a single order. As early as 1994, Millepiani drew attention to Foucault heterotopia as a device for reading the place and non-places of metropolitan condition. In dialogue with Simmel's intuition in Metropolis as mental life, the metropolis as intensification of nervous life, as a continuous shock that produces a denser, more reflective consciousness. Cacciari in Metropolis has formulated it radically. The metropolis is not an evolution of the city, but its destiny. A destiny inscribed, Nietzsche would say, in the very tragic experience of the modern. In this sense, the past is not a refuge, it is a dark energy that makes the merging of the reflective individual possible, as Giddens put it. Today, however, we no longer speak of the Großstadt, but of the metropole of second modernity. After the Second World War, as Shane argued, heterotopia is transformed into heterotopia of illusion, a device that recombines the existing fabric. The scale of urban monuments become incommensurable. Time itself dematerializes, moving from seconds to bytes. And the suburban inhabitant is no longer either a flaneur or a mass man. He is an agent of the drive, or as the board described him, immersed in a landscape of devices, deviations, and continuous attempts at reappropriation. Suppose we want to talk about a past of the future. In that case, we must also recover Pasolini's view of the Italian suburbs. The Fanfani plan on the 1960s, although inspired by a social project, produced a deep aesthetic and territorial wound. The mistake is still a lesson today on the need, when talking about housing, not for a mere technical and functionalist approach, but for an aesthetic of materials, not as aestheticism, but as critical thinking about building. a lesson that any habitat today risks forgetting when it reduces housing to a technical problem of quantity and performance. From this perspective, the futurist avant-garde with Sant'Elia at the forefront appears surprisingly relevant today. In the Manifesto of Futuristic Architecture, Sant'Elia imagines the city as a collective organism based on four nuclei: a new residence, a new energy, a new mobility, a new communication system. It was a political, cultural, and aesthetic vision even before it was a technical one. The city as a dwelling, a common body traversed by infrastructure that were not only transport line, but devices for coexistence, communication, and imagination. These references do not belong to the past. They are returns to the category of ontology discussed today at the forum, and it is through them that the contemporary metropolis can redefine itself. The presentation of this edition focused precisely on this vital area: heritage as a form of multiple identity construction, serious memories as diffuse geographies, legacies that re-emerge as anti-fragile strategies, communities that transform oral heritage into bioregional governance. Today's contribution demonstrated that the past is not something the metropolis must simply protect, but something it must understand as an active force, a force capable of creating new grammars of living, new aesthetics of material, and new categories of the relationship between margins, memories, bodies, and landscapes. The forum, therefore, opens as an invitation to think of heritage not as something that survives, but as something durable, a critical engine for the transition to a new metropolitan vision, social, aesthetic, political, and imaginative. So, welcome to the last 2025 Metropolitan Forum, Meritopolis Forum, and let us begin.
Thank you, Antonella. I also mentioned that, in fact, that I think she's put the crafted then the structure and where we are. I forgot also to mention that we are hoping that, like we have working papers, that results of each of these research forum will be published in different ways, either within UN Habitat, with our already working on working papers 3, which is last year. Okay, so without further ado, we can. I would like to introduce Germain, doctoral researcher at the Department of Architectural History, Theory and Composition, University of Seville.
Good
Germain,
morning. Yeah, I'm here.
right? Okay. So it's
Morning.
looking at diverse touristic readings of the city of Seville, heritage, identity, and urban transformations. Okay, over to you.
Yeah, I'm going to share the presentation.
We
Wait.
we can't see you though.
Mm, I'm trying to put in full screen
Lovely.
if I can. I don't see the options.
Yeah, you go into reading mode.
What? No, wait. I can see.
Uh,
You can see my presentation?
If you can just let's say todas las herramientas, then co hit the X there. Oh, that's it.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
okay now.
Can we see you? Can you put on your
Oh, yeah,
camera?
for sure. Wait. Now, morning, everyone.
Now we lost the screen.
Okay. Now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Germán Russo from the University of Seville, and I'm going to give a brief presentation titled diverse tourist reading of the city and metropolitan area of Seville, the heritage, the identity, and the urban transformation. Seville is a paradigmatic case of urban tourism that operates through multiple circuits and diverse interpretations of heritage, generating complementary readings, but also some tensions within the urban space. In recent years, the city has experienced a diversification of both its offerings and its audiences, articulating the monumental, the everyday, the creative, and even the industrial as overlapping layers of a single tourist landscape. This work aims to analyze how the heterogeneous tourist circuits reconfigure the relationships between heritage, the identity of the city, and the uses of the urban space. This reading of Seville as an heritage mosaic must be understood not only from its historic center, but also from its metropolitan condition. It's a city intertwined with nervy municipalities as Dos Hermanas, Santiponce, La Rinconada, among others, that contain archaeological, industrial, and landscape heritage increasingly integrated into contemporary tourist circuits. According to the strategic tourism plan of Seville, the city receives more than 3 million visitors annually, with tourism contributing over 11% of the local GDP. And this growth has led to processes of touristification and urban gentrification, particularly visible in the historic center. However, alongside the traditional concentration of monumental tourism, there is a decentralization of visitor flows toward other urban areas, working class neighborhoods, creative spaces, and industrial zones undergoing transformation. Thus, tourist flows are beginning to exceed the administrative boundaries of the municipality, incorporating spaces such as Italica in Santiponce, the monastery of San Isidoro del Campo, metropolitan green corridors, the banks of the Guadalquivir River upstream and downstream, and reconversion industrial enclaves in Alcalá de Guadaira and Las Hermanas. All these elements broaden the scale of analysis. The tourism in Seville must now be understood as a metropolitan phenomenon. We find three different tourist circuits and readings of heritage into the city. The first of these circuits focus on the historic core, where visits to the Royal Alcázar, the cathedral, and the Santa Cruz neighborhood predominate. This model reproduces a reading of heritage that is monumental, tangible, and traditional, grounded in monumentally Andalusi Christian legacy and even the idea of historical authenticity. This narrative places the visitor within an idealized Seville where the past becomes the scenery and even an identity brand. In contrast, the northern neighborhood as Macarena, Alameda de Hércules, San Luis neighborhood, or even Triana represent a different type of tourism, intangible, more human, based on experience and urban life. Here, the appeal lies in enjoying public space, sharing the environment with residents, and engaging with gastronomy, music, and everyday life. This circuit corresponds to what is known as creative tourism, a form of travel in which visitors seek to participate in the living culture of places. And the third circuit is emerging around industrial and peripheral heritage, especially in areas such as La Cartuja, former industrial estate, or even the expansion zone of the 20th century. Many of these spaces, like all factories, the pavilions from the Universal Exposition of the 92, warehouses and workshops, have been transformed into cultural facilities for creative industries. This reuse diversifies the tourist experience and broadens the scope of urban heritage toward every dimensions: the industrial, the modern, the technological, and the cultural. In this sense, Seville aligns with a global trend of valuing industrial heritage as a tourist resource, combining memory but also the creativity. This expansion of the heritage is not exclusively urban. The metropolitan scale fosters tourism that connects Seville with its peri-urban landscape and territorial infrastructures. The presence of major metropolitan axes such as the Guadalquivir River, the Greenway network and logistic corridors reconfigures contemporary tourist routes, incorporating peripheral heritage traditionally excluded from all this tourist imaginary. The coexistence of these three circuits generates a stratified reading of the city, where each spatial layer, like the monumental, the everyday, the industrial, produce a specific tourist flows. These flows are not static, they overlap, influence on another, and collectively shape a complex tourist geography that goes beyond the center periphery dichotomy. The result is a palimpsest, a city where tourist narratives are inscribed on historical, social, and symbolic layers. Within this framework, tourism acts as an adjunct of interpretation, but also of transformation, because it revalues certain spaces while deactivating others. It generates new poles of attraction, and even produce media and digital representation, and that reinforce the urban experience. The touristic palimpsest extends beyond the inner layers of the city toward the metropolitan region. Seville functions as a center of diffusion whose cultural circuits continue into the surrounding urban network, from Italica as a Roman narrative to the flour mills of Alcalá, the landscape of the Aljarafe, and the infrastructural traces of the metropolitan industrialization. This territorial expansion further complicates the tourist reading of Seville and challenges the boundary between center and periphery. The diversity of circuits translate into multiple effects on urban identity and heritage sustainability. In the historic center, for example, the risk of saturation and loss of local life. In neighborhoods, the processes of cultural hybridization and, at times, tourist gentrification. And in reconverted industrial areas, the opportunities to diversify the urban economy and renew cultural offerings. So the tourist reading of Seville cannot be reduced to a single narrative. Today, the city is understood as a mosaic of heritage experiences: the monumental one, the everyday, the industrial, the creative. This multiplicity, far from being a problem, can be an opportunity to build a more sustainable, polycentric, and participatory tourist model, capable of integrating different memories and uses of urban space. Ultimately, understanding Seville at its metropolitan scale allows us to view tourism not as a centripetal phenomenon, but as a network system of heritage experiences distributed across a wider territory. This opened the door to envisioning sustainable, plural, and polycentric tourism, where the metropolis functions as an integrated heritage system. And to end this presentation, I would like to thank you everyone for your attention. And that has been all for my part.
Thank you so much. That was really, really superb. Anybody would like to make any comments in addition to applause? No? Oh, I would think that first of all, that one of the most important things of looking at about multiplicities, just use sort of the play on the words, but obviously we can see exactly the importance of spatial sustainability. So, Antonella, yes.
Thank you very much. Listen to your presentation. I think that you are speaking about the city potential. It's a concept that Kevin Lynch also used a lot, using this electrical metaphor, but probably we have to implement this concept right now. Now, you spoke about a multiplicity of heritage points that produces this new metropolitan idea of heritage. Um, However, I think that the potential of the city is the expectation of their citizen. And I remember that when it was the phenomena of the occupancy of the city center in London, in Sevilla, also in Milan, by the young student with the tent. In Sevilla, young people used to go to the setas to protest. They would like to be in the television, but not with the Giralda behind, but with the seta behind. So, what I wonder is which is the expectation of the metropolitan citizen of Seville? Because I do think that the potential of a city is not only the fact that we put in a network what it was done. But for Eritopolis, what we have to do is to try to catch a sort of delta of energy that is inside the new metropolitan dimension and is a, not in action, is in potenza. So it's a potential energy that every metropolitan city can introduce into this coat of arms past that we try to connect together because at the end when you spoke about the fact that we have to introduce this polycentric metropolitan heritage connection. And so I hope that Eritopolis is able to catch this delta of energy that is produced by the modernity, is produced by places that are not related to our history, but are the new places that are not only the huge stadium or the huge mall that only represent the collective memory expertise of a metropolitan people. And only if we understand which is this potentiality of the new places, and we understand how we can connect the old coat of arms places with something new, that the new generation express. We speak with African people. The Swahili pot NGO that define a new language, putting together Swahili and English. I'm pretty sure that also in Sevilla is not only the comida, el bocadillo, and la cervecita that represent this delta of energy that young civilian people can produce. So I really
Let's
appreciate
get
the
let's
idea to
we'll
have the
give
network, but
let's give
probably we have to catch this delta.
let's give Germain an opportunity of quickly replying before we move on to the next presentation. Germain?
Yeah, thank you. This is an important point. What you are describing is the potential of new places, new urban stages to expand the symbolic repertoire of the city. In this representation, in this presentation, I want to claim those different visions. Traditionally, the tourism has been focused into a traditional view of the city, more located into the monumental one, the monumental view, probably developed into the last years of the last cycle. So the problem now is how to engage all this point of view, this new paradigms, no, into the cultural heritage, the tourism, to develop and to engage into the urban plans, to develop not a mass tourism. I don't know how to say it, but it's a big problem nowadays.
Well, to balance the tourism between neighborhoods and creative industries might be create now new problems of conflict between local inhabitants and the people visiting. The lot of the local inhabitants might say, just leave them by the monuments because I don't have to get there every day, and just keep them then sort of like there. Don't tell them anything more about the rest of the city. I don't know, but this is what you're researching, and I think I think Antonella focused very much on the metropolitan sustainability of the proposal, and to see exactly how, in fact, new narratives are then brought to the table.
Hmm.
Okay, so I think that we are looking at the uh, our second presentation, Aileen, who's a research assistant at the Department of Architecture, Building Survey and Restoration at Yildiz Technical University. And she was dealing with the serial nominations, and I suggested to that she should perhaps extend to the serial nominations and the multiplicity, even the understanding of seriality of a metropolis in that way. So Aileen, you can speak about yourself and then kick off.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for this opportunity and for the presentation. I will share my screen now. Yes, this one. Ah, eh, yes, today I'm going to make a presentation about serial nominations in memories and the role of serial nominations in the multiplicity. And in contemporary context, the boundaries of cultural domains no longer align with political borders, and the bound. So I hope you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And the boundaries are changing, but the cultural area boundaries are the same. And in the UNESCO World Heritage System, the concept of transboundary and transnational heritage necessitate the development of new approaches for recognizing, managing, and preserving shared historical, culture, and spatial values that extend beyond state boundaries, beyond the borders. In this context, a global strategy for a representative, balanced, and credible World Heritage List in 1994 provides the foundational framework for ensuring a more inclusive and diversified understanding of World Heritage. And also in 2005, UNESCO's strategies for identifying and filling the gaps within the World Heritage List have required also the development of new definitions like transnational serial nominations or transboundary heritage sites as tangible expressions of multi-layered historical processes, migrations, trade networks, and cultural interactions enable a holistic evaluation of common heritage that goes beyond national boundaries. And so when we think about transnational or transboundary heritage sites, this could be like a linear route, or it could be like a regional and diverse in separate components, and they are coming together. The term transboundary properties generally refers to expansive World Heritage sites, which extends a cohesive and closed area across the territory or two or three UNESCO Convention member states. And so we can think these components as distributed memory landscapes are particularly relevant for UNESCO serial illuminations because serial properties link multiple geographically separate sites, produce unified interpretive narratives, and highlight shared historical experiences across regions. We can give a lot of examples like such as Silk Road, frontiers of Roman Empire, potential serial nominations like slave trade routes, etc. I will explain them later. And also the concept of multiplicity, a city expanded across borders, histories, and narrative layers provides us a useful lens for examining serial nominations. In this framework, cities are not singular entities, but nodes within larger constellations of meaning. So we can also explain interconnected city, transnational city, multi-layer city. And as Ashworth notes, heritage is increasingly understood as a process rather than a product. And in this case, so serial nominations reflect this shift by replacing the spatial logic of the monumental site with the logic of connectivity, multiplicity, and distributed value also. In the UNESCO system, a serial property is defined as a set of two or more geographically distinct component size. So when we talk about serial nominations, we mention about multi-scalar, regional, local, and transnational level scales, and multi-temporal, bringing together sites shaped by layered historical processes, and multivocal, incorporating multiple communities, narratives, and authorities. So it's such a work that its layered memory landscapes accumulate multiple historical layers, and also relational. We can mention about some connections. And also collective memory, distributed memory landscapes, we need to mention about this. And when we think about multiplicity, we need to use collective memory. And memory studies have long emphasized that collective memories is according to landscapes, monuments, and practices. And also the definition of distributed memory landscapes. It's these distributed landscapes often make visible histories of movement, conflict, exchange, or forced displacement. And also, we need to explain common heritage and shared heritage in terminology, and are critically important for contemporary societies to confront their past, preserve their cultural diversity and identity, and ensure continuity for future generations. And common heritage, nowadays we hear about this issue a lot, emphasizes the preservation of universal values and international cooperation, while shared heritage highlights the importance of cultural diversity and cultural social bonds. At this point, the scope of preservation for both concept is inclusive and encompassing a rich diversity of both tangible and intangible assets. So there are a lot of transboundary and transnational serial World Heritage sites on the list. These are examples. The routes of Santiago de Compostela, the walk of peace from the Alps to Adriatic, funerary and memory sites of the First World War. And why these are important? Because these are all related with the memory. Memory is not only located in sites, but also performed through rituals, pilgrimages, tourism, interpretation, and heritage making processes. These are all related with the memory. Why this concept matters for serial nominations? Because distributed memory landscapes are particularly relevant for UNESCO serial nominations because link multiple geographically separate sites, produce unified interpretive narratives, and highlight shared historical experiences across regions. And also there are a lot of trade routes like Ottoman pilgrimage and trade networks. In the history, there are a lot of routes of Persian caravanserai. The route trade and also culture route links a lot of cities. The routes and the locations of the caravanserais were determined by the presence of water, geographical conditions, and security concerns. And in Iran, 54 caravanserais are chosen for this serial nomination. And also the most known transnational nomination is Silk Roads, the routes network of Shanghan-Tianshan corridor, a vast transnational serial property spanning China, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan. The multiplicity here emerged through the interplay of these nodes, each carrying fragments of a shared but plural memory. And so we can also define this like an ethnoscape of interconnected cities shaped by centuries of circulations of goods, people, and ideas coming from the past. Another example on the list, routes of Santiago de Compostela, also known as Camino de Santiago, also inscribes several components of these routes on the World Heritage List because of their religious, cultural, architectural, and historical significance, as well as their role in the shaping medieval European identity. And also showing transnational cultural exchange, cross-cultural interaction, a shared European Christian heritage, and also pilgrimage routes like architecture and showing architecture and urban development. And also it's a living heritage. Now the Camino remains an active pilgrimage today with hundreds of thousands of walkers each year, making it a unique example of continuity of use. So we can see the route now. And the frontiers of Roman Empire, including Hadrian's Wall in the United Kingdom and Antonine Wall in Scotland and the German limes. And also this shows how seriality narrates imperial and urban history across contemporary nation states. And also we can read now the traces of the military structure and urban development, revealing the transnational spatial logics of ancient empires. And here serial nomination acts as an interpretive tool that reconstructs the imperial multiplicity and interconnected network of cities whose identity emerged not from a single urban center, but from the regional fabric of frontier mobility and control. So we can read this serial nomination today. Another important discussion, also the Atlantic slave trade as a serial memory framework. Gore Island in Senegal, Cape Coast Castle, Ghana, Valonga Wharf in Brazil, and the Church of Nossa Senhora de Rosário dos Pretos in Brazil. They are separate sites but connected in one story. The collective interpretation constructs a memoryscape that acknowledges the trauma of displacement, commemorates resistance, and fosters a shared ethical responsibility also. And we can call this diasporic memory is inherently multi-sided. Serial nominations also provide the institutional mechanism to articulate this multi-sidedness as a heritage. So we can see on the map the relationship of different fragments, different sites. Pardon. And roots of enslaved peoples, also history of slavery and the slave trade by supporting research, memory, transmission, and intercultural dialogue. Now, through scientific and cultural partnerships, the program highlights places of memory, strengthens local capacities to promote initiatives on justice and collective healing. And also UNESCO supports these roots and to interpretation and presentation of these roots. And also we have other proposals in the future. Perhaps Via Ignatia could be an example for the potential transnational serial nomination, because from Durres to passing through different cities like Albania, North Macedonia, in Greece to Istanbul, this is the most important imperial military corridor and also trade and communication route in Byzantine Ottoman route. And also today parts of the roads are still visible, and several initiatives are constructing it as a long distance cultural route and also hiking trail, and passing from a lot of cities. And we can read it now through archaeological sites in Turkey, Greece, Macedonia, and some milestones on the road. For example, milestone in Thessaloniki, and also in the multi-layered city. Also, the cultural route has a lot of values like archaeological, historical, economic, natural, technical, cultural, but also multi-layer value is very important. Now we can read in the most important cities. We can read them with the traces of milestones in Istanbul, also in the middle of Sultanahmet Square, we can read it. And also we have a lot of component sites, a distributed memory landscape of Roman, Byzantine, and Ottoman mobilities across the Southern Balkans, linking multiple cities into a single multiplicity of roads, ports, and markets. So we can read them from the lot of components. And also in potential of Turkey for the transnational heritage potential, we have a lot similarities and the common heritage sites, such as like Byzantine heritage, Byzantine architectural heritage, Silk Road, and some Byzantine period pilgrimage centers on the pilgrimage route, like connecting Jerusalem, Israel, Palestine, Algeria, Egypt, Turkey, Syria, Italy, and Germany. And also Roman, the walls of Roman period, so we can also connect with other countries through heritage. And as a conclusion, serial nomination as a memory-making process. Serial nominations are inherently relational. They rely on connecting diverse spaces into a single narrative of outstanding universal value. This relationality allows them to operate as memory frameworks, particularly for thematic frameworks that exceed national borders, such as the slave trade, pilgrimage routes, or institutional heritage corridors. So this is also performative acts of remembering. Also, serial nominations make this performability visible by linking geographically distant sites under a shared and common narrative. So this serial nominations should be understood not only as technical mechanisms of inscription, just not only for UNESCO inscription, but as memory-making processes that construct, connect, and circulate heritage meanings. By linking geographically dispersed sites into a unified interpretive whole, they activate the relational memory of transnational historical processes like slavery, pilgrimage, empire, trade, displacement, and mobility also. And so, in doing so, serial nominations reshape the conceptual landscape of urban heritage. Cities become part of distributed networks where memory is not confined to a single place, but emerges through the interplay of multiple interconnected sites. And also, serial nominations therefore play a crucial role in understanding the city as a multiplicity, a layered, multi-sited, as a collection of memories, identities, and historical union. Thank you very much for listening. And if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions? Thank you about the Silk Roads. I've just we've just published a trilogy on architecture, monuments, and urbanism on the Silk Roads. So this is really a very, very critical time. But I think I'd like to just simply look at two things which you mentioned. One is that the constellation of cities, the meaning of constellation of cities. I think that was something which is really important. And the second one is also, therefore, the distributed memory landscapes. And I think that these are the ones, that we need to understand the serial nomination, its wider context. I think that what we're really focusing on is those which sort of relate then within the metropolis, or where, shall we say, the decapolis brings together a group of people on the frontiers of the Roman Empire. So I think that this is really and how do you really see, therefore, this idea of memory landscapes within the urban part? Danielle, over to you.
I was wondering about this transnational shared heritage, about the conflicts that we have to deal with. Most of the time, we have layers of history, and sometimes when we're dealing with different instances of heritage, also different countries or entities, there is different agendas, and how can we manage to, let's say, integrate these agencies in order to promote this kind of heritage? Also, how can we deal with the conflicting narratives that we have? For example, Eileen showed this example of the Balkans, and we know that in 30 years ago it was in war. So sometimes these nations, these young nations, they kind of reaffirm themselves, kind of hiding some aspects of their past. How can we deal with this kind of conflicts that are in between these nuances and the borders? I mean, I know it's super complex, but also is also very interesting in order to see different strategies in order to get this together and think how can we think uh, in this system as a whole and not as different sections of it.
Okay. Aileen, you can.
Thank you for the question. It's really good question. For the especially in conflict areas, the aim of these transnational and serial nominations is to also the World Heritage List is to support peace through cultural protection of cultural heritage. So I think in UNESCO World Heritage List to just connect these sites in a meaningful and powerful, outstanding universal value is also supports to present this link and also from the same story to, from the through the one story. So it helps in a scientific level. I guess we can do it in a scientific level because the political boundaries are changing nowadays. Also, they are changing, but the cultural area boundaries are the same. The cultural area is the same. It's not changing. So we can, as specialists, we can just uh, construct a link and present this link through a meaningful history and create a new scenario, and not a new scenario, but to construct the old scenario with a new presentation, new representation. So we can integrate all agencies in a scientific union, I guess. Not in political, this could be sometimes not possible, but in scientific meetings and scientific level, we can construct this relation.
Okay, we move on. We're just about bang on time, so we've got the two more presentations. I'd just like to use the fact that we have, thank you, Olivia, for being with us. I'd just like to take the opportunity halfway to say hello to Umberto Bonomo and also Abdul Rahman from our Heritopolis in Latin America and Heritopolis in Africa. Just to also note that the Heritopolis Latin America have just put out 3 books on their conference which they had, which links to some of the ideas. I don't know whether I put the link to the Google things. I don't know whether that's the correct link or not, but I think that we should be able to look at that all together. And we're hoping also to have something similar developing from in Africa with the Heritopolis Africa. So let me then just now uh, again now introduce then our third presentation. Dizhen Yang is a PhD candidate also at the Department of Architecture Urban Studies, Polytechnic of Milano, and this is really exciting to be haunting memories. So Jean, over to you. I'm really excited to listen to this. And I noticed that if you have texts which have been written, all 4 of you, perhaps share with them, and they'll be always the basis for the publication of volume 4.
Thank you, Mike. So good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to everyone. So let me just try to share my screen in 1 second. So everybody can see the presentation. Okay. So first, thank you the opportunity to presenting my ongoing research. So the topic trying to address is this very idea about how we introduce heritage, especially marginalized heritage, introduce them in a metropolitan framework. So I would like to start to introduce the concept about hydrological landscape. Hydrological landscape is the reappearances of a marginalized or erased context of a heritage, whose surprised by the historical continues to haunt the very much the present. And the hauntological landscape, it's as you can see, it's really start from the inequalities which caused by the colonization, displacement, ecological loss, and the uneven urban development. So the thing we really would like to hunting about it's trying to reintroduce heritage to its old or new context and trying to build up a relation to restore recognition of the territories. Then so that we can propose new relationship between human and the territories. So in this presentation, you will be able to see two project case studies. So one is a case study in China, and another case study is ongoing case study right now in Bolivia. So first, let me quickly introduce the location of the first case study, which is located in Yunnan, China, which considering a very underdeveloped region within China. And it has a very similar economic and industry condition with mining area in global south because the main business is really the main industry is really rely on the extractive of the resources and agriculture. And something very worth to mention right now in Yunnan, it has the largest group of indigenous. So this project also is trying to address the indigenous heritage within the context of China. So as I can mentioned, the project is indigenous village which called Onding. Onding was famous for because it's unique architecture style and village layout. But for most Chinese, it's for them they still practicing human sacrifice before the build of the new China. And at the left you can see at the left you can see a territorial plan of the region of Onding, which on the left you can see the main metropolitan area and all the settlements I marked as red. And in the middle, we can see this green dash line, which is a separation, is a protection area within the mountains, separated the indigenous village Onding with the main metropolitan areas. I think one thing is interesting to address because when we considering heritage within a metropolitan framework, we have a much more diverse factor to be taken consideration. For example, we will be able to think about the location of a heritage. We will also change the flow and the structure into three different levels, which including administration, economy, and the culture level. So in this case, when we address to the management of a heritage within a framework of a municipality, we cannot be able to only talk about administration structure, but we will also need a new structure to describe because in some cases, especially in the perspective of economic development and cultural development, in this case, the most heritage has much more powerful hierarchy rather than the urban area. So that's why when we talk about nowadays management of heritage, we really need to put in a framework of a metropolis. And so as this brief introduction of the context, I think the most challenging things for the this village is the displacement of the villagers and also indigenous people. So as you can see, the local government is trying to develop the village as a tourist destination. So basically the policy and governance is build this new two village and to relocate people. So what happened? What happened under this kind of a decision is because it make this heritage become an office instead of home for the people. So we can see. We can also see like people was commuting from different location to join the heritage, and when they finish the business, they return to a new location to continue the livelihood. So what's the result of this kind of a displacement? It's in I think roughly 5 years ago, the whole village was being burned down by the electricity, and what is I think right now is only 3 buildings was left. So that's give us an idea to really thinking about how nowadays heritage will be marginalized and also threatened by the displacement, and how we have lost recognition of the territory based on this kind of a displacement. So the first step we're trying to address is really trying to read the context not only within the heritage itself, also in a very vast context, including the natural elements, social element, also the local practices. And the second thing, we aware of this tragedy happened. So the motivation and the starting point of this project is really not only developing the village itself, the heritage itself, but also taking consideration of a vast territory around the heritage, and trying to build a framework of a trying to build a framework with this different location. So this is a very roughly how the project turns out to be. We being used a lot of a sensitive design approach. We're trying to locate our intervention in the boundaries. So we be very acupunctural and micro interventions. And when we also use map, we use territorial information to tell which is tactical and strategical location to put our interventions. So it's really a decision made about reading on the spatial information of the territory. Then we roughly suggest the different interventions, including irrigation and green corridor to continue for the people to practicing the agriculture activities. And we also placed several new spaces for the 3 villages to be shared. But the most interesting is based with that, we build a framework of mobilities which really tied up these 3 different locations with heritage. And furthermore, if you see at the right, also this kind of mobility connection which leads to the major metropolitan areas. So this came to a conclusion about uh, how we think about heritage under the metropolitan discipline is because what we really grasp is because right now we won't talk about heritage. We only talk about the location of heritage in a temporal and spatial dimension. But what happening for many places suffered by the colonization displacement, uh, heritage also carrying a crucial information about the territorial relation between the habitat and the territory. So what we're trying to do is what we really want to vitalize this relation through the participate of metropolitan structures. Then we be able to propose systems and infrastructure to help people to reclaim this relationship with the territory. So that's the whole process of a ontological landscape. So that would be a quick introduction. Right now, my ongoing research is how we implemented the same methodology also in Bolivia, Cunha Catali. So one thing, yeah, it's like the same. I will also give a very brief introduction about geographic location. So Cunha Catali is next to the capital city of Bolivia, which is the most its location has the most diverse water element, not only taken consideration about glaciers, also the Andes wetlands, and also the most famous, the also carries so much culturally values, it's Titicaca Lake. So at this map, you can see what this water element be mapped out, also to showcase in this relation with the urban area. But this is one thing, one very urgent challenging right now, La Paz and Cunacatali facing is the climate change. Because if you read the graph from the right, we will be able to know, start from this year, the glacier are demolishing. But if you look at the right, in the same time, the urban is growing, which means they are demanding more and more extraction on the glacier, on the mountains. So that we mean that, which means in the very very future, the whole metropolitan area we have facing serious issue about water securities. And the second thing is really the heritage left by the colonization and the extractivism. La Paz was being chosen because it's a strategic location for extracting mineral from the mountains. So even now, many of the mineral industry was stopped, but still suffer by very serious contamination. And this is the result because at the beginning I showed this very cleanness image about the water element, but in this case you can see in the mountains, in the urban side, and even in the rural area, is still facing multi sources contaminations, and that driving to a very urgent phenomenon about El Lato and the La Paz municipality is forcing people in the rural area to abandon a land and trying to find a place in the city area that also cause a very uncontrolled informal settlement, informal urbanization of these two major metropolitan area. So what we propose here is really to investigate the sustainability of all this water system within Cunacatali and also metropolitan area. So the information carried out in this map is trying to showcase what kind of a location they extract from the glacier, and how many carry and which area was covered by this kind of water supplement. This from this map, we raised the very first inequalities about the current situation is because we noticed to supply the city now they are opening more and more extraction on the glaciers. And then right now the situation is in the rural areas they have to really supply water to the city, even though the water sources is very much close to them, but they still need to be suffer for this heritage of the extractivism. So what we trying to propose is the same because for us reading on the inequality is really important. It's really helped us to define the fragilities of the context, fragility of heritage, fragility of a metropolitan area. So we would like to really work on this fragility and make it a counterpoint as an anti-fragility approach, which is I will gonna address in the following slides. After we noticed how many unsustainable activity going on right now with the water, we trying to looking back about the environment and the indigenous history, trying to grasp what's the relationship before colonization of them with the nature and the water resources. So we found out many interesting informations, especially from a non-human perspective. We notice all this Andes wetland porphydalis is working very much on the ecological services of the water, and based with this ecological services, people can build on stockhood, and they can cultivating the land. So it's a really a tie and an intense relationship between the indigenous people and the territories. And secondly, it's also interesting for indigenous knowledge how they manage the water, because as you see in this diagram, before the colonization, for the irrigation system, they never use canal, but instead use different pools to really work with this ecological services of water runoff and collecting this water, and then they can be able to build very delicate irrigation and agriculture systems. Furthermore, we also from archaeological point of view, which really investigated what's the memory about indigenous people with the water. So, among several reading, we be able to understand from symbolism, we be able to understand for the local community and the indigenous, they really understand how the ecological services as a value and as a crucial knowledge to be noted in their culture and also in their practices. Also, they're really infecting the traditional typology of archaeology site. They usually put this huge pillar at the center of a sunken garden. Uh, Morphologically speaking, the sunken garden represents the Titicaca Lake, and this pillar usually represents uh, the spring which reach from the underground water, the spring reach from the through the aquifer, and be able for them to recharge the agricultural land to recharge the to irrigate their livelihood. So that came to a very crucial findings. While we finding this, what can we tell about heritage within Kunka Katali? Because we really want to grasp is an intangible heritage, which is this indigenous water knowledge. Because for us, it's crucial for three perspective because it's another pathway to use the water because they really put the action on the how rely and beneficial from the ecosystem services of water. And secondly, it's very crucial in terms about decolonization process because for them, the water never be considered as a resources rather than a services. And third is relevant for the methodology because water for them is also a key aspect or a knowledge to reconnect with their territory to give them identities. So to transfer this into the action, what we do is we use map to really grasp what's going on the territory. We really use different aspect perspective to describe on the Kuntakatali what kind of different ecological services of water happening and what kind of how can we visualize this kind of services through a spatial and geographic informations and representations. And then we trying to use this ecological information and to discuss on the metropolitan framework. So what we are trying to work with the local government and organization is we really trying to put this water action as an important part to vitalize their knowledge of heritage and also we trying to build a structure, metropolitan structure to also including a lot of rural area within the metropolitan area. And then, and then secondly, we also document all these locations we believe has intangible water heritage values, which were these chocas and the bofedales would be able to put on a map, and we be able to discuss what's the relationship about this kind of area with the current metropolitan system. Then we be able to offer we be able to offer a project based as again like the project in China. We will be able to offer the locations and also interventions, and we also be able to use different scale to reach capacity building which make this intangible heritage of water can not only infecting the governments and the planning level, we can also propose how we regeneration the urban fabric, and also how can we reintroduce this kind of practices, the space for the practices into the local community. I think that's all. Thank you for the attentions. If there's any questions, I'm here to answer it.
That was really so interesting. I'm not sure about how I can sort of understand then the cultural significance of ontological landscapes from China aspect and also from the Italian aspect. I was also thinking about futuristic ideas, Nostradamus, perhaps exactly what in fact could haunt us from the future. Does anybody would like to comment or to add something? uh, or ask any other question. We'll give Antonella a quick opportunity.
Okay, for us, ontological and this phantom heritage as a phantom. And phantom is a metaphor of something that existed in the past and exists right now, but in reality doesn't exist anymore. So it's a critical experience. Is a critical it's a critical approach regarding heritage. So heritage as something that we don't only have to preserve, that is a UNESCO, ICOMOS job and business, and they are able to do it very, very well. I think that our approach regarding Eritopoli is to use heritage as a critical voice that such as in this case or in the case in China, where they would like to rebuild the village such as it was and where it was. And in Bolivia, in reality, is a strong connection between population and places are totally because these series of ritual are only related to tourism and for gringos. So heritage for us is a critical voice that remind us that we can understand what is going on because we have a memory of this past. And exactly the same thing that Eileen proposed us. So she spoke a lot about memory, and also the Zhang, they are speaking about which are the elements that right now can produce a memory and how we can use the memory. Memory is fundamental because from the end of the story, we can return back to the origin. And that is exactly the value of a ghost, of a phantom, that push us to think that the value is not because it was built then, but the value is because the same value of the past of my father has a value right now, and that is the value of memory. So in this sense, we use
Um,
ontological and phantom.
Anybody would like to room? We have room for one more comment on this. Aileen, yes.
Also, I would like to add this water system. Like when I listened to your presentation, I thought about Kanat system in Iran, and also we had this also in Turkey, the boundaries of Turkey, the water system, but we lost the technology and because in Iran they repaired it, the people, the local memory is living now. They have the asset and they repair it, they use it now. But in Turkey we didn't use this system, so we lost the most part of heritage. I think this is
Yes.
about to remember something that we today, if we lose it physically and we forget it how to collect and use the water. systems, so we lose the memory also. We don't have this heritage anymore. But in Iran, in World Heritage List also, they have the nomination now.
Thank you very much. Yes, I think that's very important because the Bolivia's case is really telling us from understanding of past memories, we really can give us a shift. How can we use our natural elements? We should use the resources, or we should use it as services. Yeah, and beside that, why I trying to put these two case studies, it's really ontological landscape for us is a methodology. So what we are really trying to put here, it's this kind of methodology to transfer heritage to a territorial impact to the land. So we be with that we also reintroduce the heritage to people's everyday life. I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and of course the word kanat is very, very used in different forms. There's iflaj, which is also used in Saudi Arabia and the whole Arabian Peninsula. So there's different cultural attitudes which language helps us to understand. I didn't really get a reply regarding future hauntological services like Nostradamus, because this is where something we might want to think about when we talk about heritage futures, if there's something frightening of the future. Anyway, let's move on to our last presentation. We're just managing time very, very well. So let me we'll just share it exactly so you can see where we are. Here we go. So here, first of all, under the guidance of Anna Maria Colaviti, she is the professor of urban and regional planning in the School of Architecture, who I only met last week, and I was very privileged to meet them and discuss the idea of what's happening in Sardinia, University of Cagliari, and the research assistant of Beatrice Loda, and she'll be then speaking about the community engagement to bioregional governance, a synergistic approach to textual and oral heritage of island communities. So we're looking forward to hearing from you both, and I'm stopping to share, so off you go.
Thank you so much, Michael. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we would like to.
Okay. Okay. We prepare a short presentation about our case study focused on the Sardinia Highland heritage to catch, as Antonella said, the potential of heritage in this particular moment. I just say a few words to introduce our ideas. The challenge for contemporary Sardinia is to reconcile metropolitanization with the bioregion, understood as a territory defined by ecological balance, cultural identity, and natural resources, while Cagliari, Sassari, and Olbia represent urban hubs capable to attracting economic, cultural, and tourist flows. The highlands' ecological integrity and environmental resilience require compact urban planning, sustainable infrastructure, and landscape enhancement. The bioregional perspective implies that metropolitanization should not translate into indiscriminate expansion or land consumption, but rather into polycentric development integrated with the network of ecological corridors, water resources, and local biodiversity. In this way, Sardinia can develop a model of a bioregional island metropolis in which urban modernity and the globalization combine with the environmental sustainability, local culture, and the quality of life. Something needs to be said about the processes of metropolization in our island. Sardinia's metropolization processes are unusual. Taking shape in a highland setting characterized by low population density and mostly small to medium-sized towns. Although the highland has no real metropolis. Some areas are beginning to display trends typical of metropolitan regions. Sardinia represents a paradigmatic case of weak or incomplete metropolization, typical of island contexts marked by low population density, highly dispersed settlements, and the selective urbanization processes. Here, metropolization does not appear in the classical form of the large compact city, but rather has functional concentration, intensified flows, and the specialization of urban poles with the dynamics that unfold differently between the coastal areas and the highlands interiors. What is, as you can see in the slide, what is the idea of bi-region model to apply the possibility to apply the bioregion model? The urban bioregion is an alternative way of reading and planning local contexts based on the recovery of the coevolutionary relationship between human settlement and territories to realize a self-sustainable and non-hierarchical system of urban and rural centers in balance with each other, according to Alberto Magnagi's vision. Discussing the ways through which coevolution can be achieved helps us to reconstruct the historical relationship of balance between city and territory that have characterized in the past the existing regional and the metropolitan context. In this direction, the Horizon Restory project, recovering past stories for the future within Horizon Europe, as you know, aims to investigate the cultural heritage, both textual and oral, of small communities, promoting participatory action research to enhance historical practices characterized by immateriality. The project aims to develop a participatory research action experience and establish a cross-disciplinary partnership between the academic sector, local authorities, associations, and communities. It supports, together with the municipal administration of Villa Cidro and the Giuseppe De Si Foundation, a participatory process between the different actors of the territory with the aim of elaborating strategies for the promotion and valorization of the significant historical, cultural, and identity heritage, both material and immaterial, contributing to the strengthening of the sense of place and place attachment in order to counteract the phenomenon of abandonment and the consequent impoverishment of the landscape and the territorial capital. The ambition of the project is to develop, together with the local communities, innovative, strategic, and planning scenarios for the rebalancing of territorial dynamics on which to base a durable and self-sustainable development to counter the depopulation of territories and its physical, economic, and social manifestation. I thank you, and I leave the floor to Beatrice for the next consideration. Please, Beatrice.
Morning, everybody. As Professor Anna Maria Colavicti was explaining, our case study is Villa Cidro, that is, you can see it in the map, very symbolic for the water heritage, as we saw in some previous case studies of other people presenting. And in the frame of Restore project, Restore project builds synergetically upon textual and oral heritage to explore the past of small and medium-sized communities with the goal of restoring the public emotional connection to this continuous tradition. So, here we can see our strategic scenario of local stakeholders and how we are going to establish a participatory research action which aims to establish a cross-disciplinary partnership between academic sector and local authorities, associations, and communities. Here we can see our next event is planned on the 13th of December and is going to involve all the previous, as you can see here, all these stakeholders we have been getting in touch. In particular, we realized that a traditional approach provides little room for collaboration between designers and users over the evolving design. So we decided to have an ethnographic approach, which has a potential of providing mutual understanding between users and designers, gained through direct observation and of users at work. And in particular, our tools were through audio and video recording. Here is a list of the specific association we were involving in Villa Cidro, in particular with attention on women. So, for example, in culture, we have all these associations like the Club of Jane Austen is a club that has more than 600 participants. Then we have École of Madame Foyer, that is artisanal weaving school, is unique in all Sardinia, and is recovering very traditional weaving artisanal techniques. As you can see on the top, here they are even experimenting with the film. So waving with the old film. Okay, so here it's the second stage. So as I was saying, oral history interviews are considered intangible digital-born heritage. The recordings have been through a semi-structured interview guide, and as I was saying, with a special attention to women. So on the right side of the image, we can see mother and daughter of Club of Jane Austen, and some folk traditional women who are still cooking very traditional dishes, and also attention to the clothing, different stories. So here is the next stage. After our ethnographic approach to these communities, we are going to have a communitarian map workshop that starts with the Transect Walk laboratory. We organized together with association route that we are going to do on the 13th of December. Is going to be a lot of people participating, so it's going to be really enriching for our academic study. And there's going to be participating also the mayor of Villa Cidro together with all the municipality. And after the creation of this community map, we are going to have a final exhibition in the Archaeological Museum of Villa Cidro that is next to this. It's called Lavatoio. It's a place used by women in the 18th century that is very identitarian for Villa Cidro people. And we are going also to organize a vintage photography exhibition with all the citizens who are going to provide us their family pictures of different generations. And also we are going to connect from a municipality archive so that we have a chance to also have more personal conversation on the history of Villa Cidro. And finally, we just wanted to give a short example of a previous summer school, always together with the Restore project made by the Department of Engineering here in Cagliari on Villa Cidro. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure that David might have something to speak about the bioregion here. I would like to ask just one question about whether, in fact, there was no conflict between the various community interests. It was presented as if there was just one group of community, and we're working with one community. What about then? Were there conflicts? Were there different sort of groups of people? Did you manage to identify these?
We are very aware of the conflicts, and of course they do exist, but our attitude is more about, let's say, multidisciplinary and is not a problem that we have different desires of different associations and communities. I think it's our job as a technicals of the subject of urban planning to cross all these different needs. Ci sta chiedendo se abbiamo
the conflict in Sardinia is a normal way of life. So, as Beatrice said, to bypass this problem, it's important to speak with people and communities to construct a sort of engagement project with the communities. This is the real our idea to better understand the historical context and to construct a relationship between the memories, the historical context, and the local community.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Is there any other comments? I'm just trying to think that Daniel in his PhD is also related very much to sort of, I wouldn't say a bioregion, but the cultural landscape which is involved around Rio.
Yeah, I mean, we have many shared aspects on that, specifically the participatory process, engaging the community and thinking about how can we engage the community for sure. Fantastic presentation.
Oh, thank you.
David?
Thanks. Well, following your prompting, Mike, just the thought that, of course, the concept of a bioregion has perhaps an almost more inherent meaning on an island than it would on the continental mainland, because the limits of the region are, as it were, topographically defined, even if you include the coastal zone or coastal waters or whatever. But nevertheless, it, I think, also facilitates the kind of analysis that you've been doing. But just, having to bear that distinction in mind. Thanks. Fascinating presentation.
Antonella?
I only would like to underline some key topic that for Eritopolis can be relevant. First of all, is a live heritage and it's not only a poor conservation, but is how to heritage as an agent of change. The topic of gender. Probably in Eritopolis, we never introduce this connection, but in a lot of cases are the women that are the repository of memory and history. And also the topic of digitalization, that is not only to build an app, but is to use the twin transition that can divide but also can unify some territory, in particular, so dramatic territories such as Sardinia is, as a tool to connect people, but also to transmit and implement culture. If you speak in China, we saw also when with Li Fan we went to the urban-rural linkage forum 2 or 3 years ago, how digitalization can also help local community to be much more global because they have a strong tradition in handicraft. For example, in China was the production of tea, I remember. So I think that we have to work on this topic too, gender in particular, and digitalization.
I think that's really very critical, but not just what is sort of like, I would say, almost politically correct, that of gender and youth. In other words, the importance of then of continuity and exactly the role of youth in creating future heritage. That is a really critical aspect about it. Just like to go back to what David had said about the role of the island, and I did have the opportunity of talking with Anna Maria before about then seeing the island as a metropolis. In other words, it works itself with a key city on the island, and then running as a metropolis. And the bioregion is a unique system within the island system, which you can actually then might want to we might want to reconsider. Anyway, that's something to be discussed in the future. I see that the water is something which is really interesting everybody. Aileen, David, Antonella, Dicernes, everybody's then relating to different technological systems, but they're also connected to also cultural patterns. That of the Hima, what is called, that the waters then through the canal, through the aqueducts, is then divided amongst communities because there's not enough water, and then how in fact then communities receive the water is really something which is also very critical. And again, dealing with spatial sustainability and the role of, shall we say, not just the metropolis within a particular urban part, but also the wider understanding gives us it addresses the challenges of the city and gives us opportunities of sustainability. Any other comments? Lee, you want to add something on that? No?
Fine. I think the PhD research or research project, these are quite avant-garde. I mean, at the PhD phase, you have the unique opportunity in your life to explore something new, something innovating, something that you are the one who create. So I would encourage you to go ahead with this kind of the topic, this kind of research that for your scientific career development. So I'm just very impressed by all those new ideas and your deep observation through those profound gathering of those knowledge in China, Bolivia, and also those perspectives. So very, very inspiring. Yes.
Vera.
Thank you, Mike. And congratulations to all the presentations and the very good research work have been done, and it's very, very impressive. I would like to say that I think three elements for me, at least in Brazil, I believe I have to consider my reality only, although I just can kind of grasp the realities being presented here. But I would say like water is a very important element that can link also the presentations, borders. I believe that borders are very, very important. Borders and frontiers. I believe that we should emphasize the aspect of frontiers, borders, with all the complexity, with all the impacts, with all the possible, the very complex and difficult situations concerning borders, and also the parcours. I think it's very important to understand sometimes the heritage can be studied and seen as a parcours, as a route, as a continuity of linked heritages, small scale, local scale, metropolitan, urban. I think we consider network and also the linkage between this different in a border or in different ways of doing the parcours in doing the linkage. I think we can just go on and improve our understandings and our studies also. Thank you so much for the presentations.
You've mentioned the issues of water, and we tend to sort of look at it at the past, but it is a challenge of the future with climate change, and almost the lack of water or the abundance of water, and that might change us a lot of ideas. Linda, over to you.
Thank you very much. Oh, my camera doesn't work. Sorry. Fascinating discussions. Coming from Iran and knowing of the traditional systems of providing water, we might have the tendency to look at cultural practices through a little bit of a rosy lens. But for people who remember the traditional practices, when it was replaced by municipal waters, though municipal water systems created new types of problems, they reduced or eliminated a lot of conflict that was between tribes, between the different entities that controlled this water. So while from a traditional practice and looking at it from how we lived with nature, we also have to remember that there was a lot of conflict within these traditional practices. And I encourage everyone who does research on traditional water also look at how the replacement with modern infrastructure solved a lot of problems.
Thank you. That was a really, again, important comment. And as mentioned, is about allocation of water was in fact, it is in fact a casus belli. Umberto.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike, and thank you for all the presentation. It's interesting to see, in my point of view, how this presentation have many points in common. And that made me think about the problems that this island face in terms of heritage are also very common in other non-island context. For example, in Chile, you know that Chile is considered in the literature as a huge island because we have the Pacific Ocean and the Cordillera de los Andes that create a very particular condition of isolation. And I think that this exercise open new concepts and new conditions to analyze our non-island conditions. Thank you.
Okay, anybody like to add something? I think that we are trying to look at this in a comprehensive way, and the subject was loosely put together about trying to deal with memories and interpretations, and I think that I think it is important to look at the issues of alternative interpretations, alternative memories, alternative issues which are come along, and how do we manage these multiplicities, and how, in fact, then the metropolis can actually deal with this. Anyway, I would just like to thank everybody because it was really well done, and I don't know whether uh, Louise is listening in because he is editing volume 3. First of all, that those of you who've got written texts, it might be worthwhile to send them to me, and then we'll be able to see exactly how to we build up then volume 4, or there might be an overlap with volume 3, but I would leave Louise to tell us something about that. So that was the first thing. The second one is then I know that not everybody was right at the beginning. We did mention that we are going to set up a working group on Hull and looking at Hull at the new metropolitan scale, and therefore please, whoever is interested, everything in Heritopolis is as transparent as possible. So whoever would like to join, please then just make note for that. But that sort of brings me to the end, and we're a little bit 3 minutes over, but we started 5 minutes late. So, and we gave a quarter of an hour freedom to in the Zoom link. So. With this, I'd like to thank everybody, wish them seasonal greetings for the end of the year. We will the steering committee will meet in December because and then in January we are hoping to then open up with a new series on the consortium, and then would bring us then to the new research forum of 2026. David, over to you.
Thanks, Mike. Just as a closing comment, it would be amiss to ignore the fact that you, as our leader, are about to celebrate a very big birthday. And not everybody would appreciate it given how young you look, but Mike turns 85 on Friday. So congratulations, and long may you continue with the energy that you are still showing.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. As I said, my brother told me that I should not put candles on the case because of global warming. So we'll just
I thought you were going to
leave
say
it
because
as
there
it
wouldn't
is.
be room on the cake for all the candles, but there you go.
Oh, this is the Guinness Book of Records. Thank you, David, and thank you
My
all.
pleasure.
Okay. God bless. Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Thank